Welcome back to The Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you are currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps along your journey. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now, let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. What does it mean to spark? That's a question that's been asked to me a lot recently. And in fact, many of the different conferences or events that I've been asked to speak at, the theme has been spark. And I've been tasked with the challenge of being able to articulate for the audience, for the crowd, for the company, what does it truly mean to spark? And what are the elements of sparking something new, sparking something in the world, and making a spark for other people? You may remember the viral video that was going around the internet years ago. Derek Sivers was the one who illuminated this story in his TED Talk. But this viral video that everyone was sharing, that was a scene from a concert. It was a beautiful summer afternoon in this video, an outdoor concert with a big field, a band playing off in the distance, and people grooving along to the music. And in this video, in the midst of this concert, all of a sudden you watch this one guy, this guy with just a pair of shorts on, no shirt on, no shoes on, all of a sudden move outside of the pack and off into this open space in the field. And he just began dancing with such joy by himself. He was off by himself and he was doing this funky dance where he was flailing his arms and his legs in the air unapologetically. He was free. He was not the most coordinated or fluid dancer, but he was doing it with such joy. And as you watch this unfolding, this one guy off by himself in the middle of this field, all of a sudden what you watched was then one person come down next to him, the first follower that came down towards this guy, and right next to him began to join in that same funky, gangly, style that the first guy was. And then something amazing happens, that over the next 3 minutes of this viral video, the entire culture of the field shifts. And all of a sudden, everyone moves down, this enormous mass of people all gravitate down in the field around the first guy and the first follower. And everyone begins doing the same funky, gangly, unapologetic, free dancing as this music is being played in the background. It's a mass of people and a mass of joy. He had sparked a change. But what does it truly mean to spark? What does it truly mean to spark? As I've been asked this question and been asked to articulate it for other people, it's made me think about that a spark requires a collision of two things to create that kind of friction. Two things have to collide together to create that spark so that a fire or something else can combust and begin. And so as I've reflected on my own life and those who I've watched spark positive change in the world, I've begin to think about that maybe the two things that are colliding, that there's a collision of these two things, and maybe the two things in our lives that cause that spark is when the first part is a collision of our own discomfort with something in the world collides with the comfort of our own gifts and strengths. That the collision of our own discomfort with something in the world collides with the comfort of our own gifts and strengths, and that collision creates the spark. That dancer was uncomfortable with the status quo, needed space, needed to step out and let his own authentic gifts and moves come out. He needed to let that authenticity and that gangly, free, unapologetic spirit be released. And so the discomfort of hanging with the crowd all of a sudden collided with his need to express himself and the courage to step out from the crowd and to just let himself dance. This kind of sparking happens in small ways every single day. I think about a school group that I spoke to recently that was talking to teachers and educators and professors and people that are trying to create the culture for students to come alive and be authentic and care and learn and create that culture. And I think about a story that they told me about a kid that they watched who became uncomfortable with watching another student being bullied, and the discomfort of that, of watching another student being bullied, that collision of then that child stepping in with their own authentic gift of courage, of stepping in to stop the bullying. I think about an employee in a company that I've spoke with and that I've been consulting with, an employee in a company setting that was sharing with me that there was just this growing discomfort with them internally in their own mind and in their own heart of the way that the team was operating and the way that they were just stuck in this status quo of the way that their company was moving. And then inside this employee, there was this collision of the discomfort of this idea that there's got to be a better way. There's got to be better technology to do what we're doing, to enhance our progress and efficiency. And that discomfort collided with then their authentic gifts of seeing how do you use technology to make things more efficient, to think innovatively, to stimulate progress. And all of a sudden that collision sparked a change in their team and their company that began to take them in a new direction and out of the status quo. I think about a family that I know that recently had admitted that inside them, in the parents, there was growing this growing discomfort over the status quo and routine of their own everyday life. That they just felt like they had young kids and that they were just going through the motions, which many of us can relate to this. Anybody that has kids or has been through that phase of life where you just feel like you're going through the motions, that you're on autopilot, and this discomfort was growing every day, that this is the one life we get, and yet we're just going through these routines, and all of a sudden that discomfort collided with their authentic gifts of being willing to go on an adventure. The courage to step out from the crowd and to go do something different. And so their desire to change sparked them moving across the country to begin a new adventure together. And so all of us in small ways every single day, we are creating sparks around us. We have an opportunity to spark right now in our lives, in our families, in our work, in the way that we interact with the people in the grocery stores, in the coffee shops, or in the communities that we live. We have an opportunity to spark where the collision of our own discomfort with something can collide with our own authentic gifts and strengths to bring about positive change. And so that initial spark is within our control, and we are the ones that can help create that collision. But then the only way that spark begins to grow is whether we're going to breathe oxygen into that spark. We know, if anybody's ever started a fire before, if they've been down on their hands and knees trying to start a fire, they know that after the initial spark, the way that they begin to get that spark turn into flames and grow into a fire is by breathing oxygen into the flames and into that spark. And so after we create that initial spark, all of us have an opportunity in our lives and in our work to think about What is it that we want to breathe oxygen into? After that initial spark moves, then how do we begin to breathe oxygen into it so that it grows, so that it spreads? And it's our determination and our committed action to breathe oxygen into it that helps it move from that spark to a change that actually is sustainable and lasts. And so I thought about what are the reflection questions or some things for us to step back and ponder this week. An opportunity for all of us along our path to step back and to think about a couple of things that might move us forward. And so I invite you to think about who has been a spark for you in your life. Who has been a spark for you in your life? Somebody who's maybe sparked you to think about things differently, sparked you to change, sparked you to see the world differently, sparked something even within you. Where do you feel a sense of discomfort in your life, in your work, in your relationships? Where does that discomfort lie? Where is there something that you want to stimulate positive progress? In what ways could your unique gifts and strengths collide with that discomfort? In what ways could your own unique gifts and strengths collide with that discomfort? And what sparks do you want to help create next? And how will you breathe oxygen into them? Remember, we all can create sparks, and then we make the commitment to breathe oxygen into those sparks and into those flames. But what will it mean for you to spark? Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast platform or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of this conversation. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or this kind of development would add value to your team or organization, we hope you'll contact us at www.jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we all are ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.